Back to one of our top stories. It's the traditional May Day protest in France. Turned very violent yesterday. Images of that, of course, splashed across the French newspapers today. Dipty's going to have a look through us.
Well, the communist paper L'Humanité calls it the historic May Day protest on its front page here with, as you said, those images of protests across France on its front page. The paper notes also that 300 demonstrations across the country brought over 2 million people on the streets, an unprecedented showing not seen in 20 years. La Croix, meanwhile, looks at who is really benefiting from all this unrest in France, lamenting the fact that the French left haven't really been able to capitalize politically from this unrest in France because they themselves are too disparate, they say. The paper says, while noting that after the unions, Marine Le Pen and the far-right party are the ones who stand to gain the most from all this unrest over pension reforms in France. You have the right-wing paper Le Figaro as well for its part, which is looking at what comes next. What comes next after these protests on May the 1st? Next comes, the next big event will be a second decision to be made from the constitutional authorities about the legality of those pension reforms. And then in June, a bill is expected to be put forward calling for the pension laws to be repealed altogether. So that's what's on the calendar ahead, Stuart.
Now, this next one's a fascinating, slightly scary story as well. He's widely considered to be the pioneer of artificial intelligence. This is Geoffrey Hinton. He's actually quit his job, though, at Google to speak out about the dangers of AI.
Yeah, and his comments in the press have been widely picked up. Computer scientist Geoffrey Hinton and his associates in 2012 developed the technology that became the intellectual foundation for AI systems as we know them today. In a sort of Frankenstein-esque situation, he's now quit his job after a decade at Google in order to speak out about the dangers of AI and really what he's created. Now, developing AI systems was his life work. It's something he's been working on forever. The British-born, Toronto-based Hinton also won a prestigious Turing Award for his work. In 2012, he and two of his students built a neural network that could analyze thousands of photos and teach itself to identify common objects. Now, as we've seen recently, Google and Microsoft have been sort of locked in this power battle, a dangerous competition to build even more intelligent AI chatbots and integrate them into their search engines, which Geoffrey Hinton says, he fears that this rivalry could lead to the detriment of humanity altogether, Stuart.
And AI is being cited as one of the great concerns for the film and television industry. Hollywood writers have gone on strike. This is over working pay and conditions.
Yeah, the Hollywood Writers Guild is indeed on strike. It's the first strike seen since the 14-week strike back in 2007, 2008, and a lot has changed in the industry. What's changed now is that in addition to the Hollywood studios, you have streaming networks who are also among those facing this protest by Hollywood writers. Among the concerns cited by this website, this pop culture website Deadline, the Writers Guild wants some sort of regulation on artificial intelligence and authorship, especially if a writer's ideas are used as a basis for AI-generated work. There are also understandable concerns among writers and other members of the industry that AI could replace a number of professions, including dubbing actors and those who work in special effects doing.
Yeah, more on that, in fact, in the next half hour from our correspondent in Los Angeles telling us what the strike's about. Now, finally from Dipty, a Dutch driver recently pulled over for drink driving. The police, though, they were for a bit of a shock. This is when they saw his driver's license, is that right?
That's right, and I'm not going to show you the driver's license just yet, so I'll just explain the story. So they pulled over this drunk driver. He handed over his drunk driver's license, and lo and behold, it was this man, a shaggy-haired Boris Johnson, aka former British Prime Minister, with the right picture and the right date of birth on his driver's license to it. Now, as the Times says, it's not entirely outside the realms of Johnson to illegally consume alcohol, but there are some glaring errors. You'll see here, that's a Ukrainian flag. There's also I'm not sure if you can see it there, but it's a date of issue, which is July 24th, 2019, and that might be a sort of ordinary day for most of us, but Boris Johnson he actually became prime minister on that day. So it's unlikely he would have been renewing his driver's license on that very day. And if that's not enough, if you look at the expiration date, it reads 12/12/3000. So apparently this driver's license is valid for another 1,000 years or so. The Dutch police did have a chuckle. They posted this up on social media, but the fake Boris Johnson was indeed handcuffed. It seems Boris Johnson and trouble are quite synonymous these days, Stuart.
I want to know what the driver looked like. I mean, did he look like a Boris
Probably
Johnson?
not.
I wonder. Dipti, thanks a lot. Dipti with the papers on France 24. No impersonations from her.